And welcome back to Chicago Bulls Insider. Today, we are talking about Tre Jones re-signing with the Chicago Bulls and how this is going to impact them next season. Next, we're going to be looking at the most recent contract update around Josh Giddey. And lastly, we're going to be talking about what the Chicago Bulls could do moving forward this offseason. And so before we go ahead and we jump into all of that, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button. Just like Modest Buzelis, slam dunks in games. And so in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. So make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it. And let's start with Tre Jones, who is re-signing with the Chicago Bulls. And so if you didn't get a chance to see this, this happened yesterday during day one of free agency. And this is Shams and his official tweet that he will be returning back to the Chicago Bulls on a 3-year, $24 million contract. And so I think that breaks down to roughly right around $8 million per season. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into Tre Jones, his impact, and really what this means for the Chicago Bulls moving forward, just long-term, and then for this upcoming season. And so with Tre Jones and his impact, I think that his impact was huge on the Chicago Bulls. I think that this is a player that made winning plays for this team on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. And so I think that the first key point with Tre Jones is just basketball IQ. I think that that's something that you definitely see with Tre Jones immediately. Once he started to get the playing time with the Chicago Bulls, he showed that he could be a player that could start. He showed that he could also be a player that could come off the bench. And you really aren't losing too much of anything with him being on the floor, because this is a guy that can be a floor general for you. He knows how to assist the basketball. He understands player and ball movement. And so if you are moving off of a cut or something like that, he can definitely find you there. And I think that I love what he does offensively as far as being efficient. This is a player that is not going to just come down, jack up a whole bunch of shots and things like that. And that's very important because the Bulls style of play, it encourages getting up and down the floor, shooting up shots and things like that. But Tre Jones, he will shoot shots, but he's going to make sure that they are good shots. And so you love that he is going to be efficient on the offensive end. And then next, when you look at his offense a little bit more and the way that he can be crafty, just going in against bigger players, I love that about Tre Jones. I thought that was one of the biggest things that he really brought to the team was his ability to finish inside. And so I love that about Tre Jones. I like the fact that he's able to really work off of the ball as well. And so he doesn't necessarily have to have the ball in his hands to be effective. In fact, when we look at his three-point numbers and things like that, I think a lot of that came from just understanding the rotation of the defense, being in the right pockets to get the ball, to shoot it. And a lot of times he got himself open shots that way. And so Tre Jones understanding what's going on there and being able to operate off ball. And then defensively, what I liked about Tre Jones is I don't think that there was any games that I watched where teams were coming down and going, hey, we want to get into a pick and roll because we want to go at Tre Jones. I didn't see that. I think that Tre Jones competed. And I think that also, too, he's pretty solid off the ball as well. And so when you're talking about the impact of Tre Jones, I think it's big, and I think it's going to be big moving forward for this team. And I think another thing with Tre Jones is he really earned the trust of Billy Donovan and maybe the organization here, because I think that Billy Donovan certainly trusts playing Tre Jones once he got him into the games and things like that. So I think that is definitely one of the reasons why they brought him back, is that, well, Billy Donovan certainly trusts him. And so 18 games played for the Bulls. He started 9 and he was solid. And I said this before last season, I think that he did things that were similar to Lonzo Ball. He wasn't Lonzo, but he did things that were similar. And so, I would have liked to see the Bulls bring him back, but I knew currently with just how many guards were on the roster, it was going to be tough. But once they moved on from Lonzo Ball, I think that this is a deal that makes sense. Now, for the Chicago Bulls and the long term and just how this impacts them moving forward, I think for the short term, it gives you somebody that you can either start or bring off the bench, which can be huge for you. Because here's the thing, if players get injured, you trust that you can put Tre Jones in and you're not going to miss anything. Number two, he's shown that he can play with your main backcourt players right now. And so assuming that you're bringing back Coby and that you're bringing back Josh Giddey, he operated just fine with them. And I don't think that that's going to be an issue once Dosunmu comes back either. So he fits in fine with what you want to do there. And then also too, with the bigs, I think that he was terrific as far as getting them looks as well. And so I think that Tre Jones will be just fine as far as getting the bigs looks. I think that that's going to help Modest. That's also going to help Noah Essengay, counting that he gets a chance to play, and just really all the other forwards. As long as they're active, they're cutting and things like that, and just movement, he will be able to find you. So for the short term, you get a player that fits what you want to do. It's a younger player with experience, which is what the team has wanted to build with. Tre Jones checks the box there. And then, lastly, when it comes down to it, just for the long term here, it gives you some insurance, because if you do go ahead and shake it up, you decide to trade one of your players, whether it's a Coby or once again, not in that camp. But if you do, you have Tre Jones and he's on a good contract, which is not costing you a whole bunch. And with what you get from Tre Jones, again, I think that this is a great signing for the short and the long term, as long as you continue to build the roster out properly. And so when you look at the numbers for Tre Jones, you will see a player that was solid. 11.5 points, 1.1 with the steals, 0.3 with the blocks, 4.9 with the assists, 3.2 with the rebounds, 88.2% from the free throw line, 50% from three. Now, keep in mind, he is not a player that takes a whole bunch of three-point shots, so that's on low volume there. 57.2% from the field, and he played in 25.3 minutes. And so I would expect that he's going to get some more minutes, hopefully this season, even if he's coming off the bench. Hopefully, he doesn't get injured again. I think that was tough for the team when he went down with the foot sprain. And so we're hoping that he's able to come back and be healthy, because if he is, he's going to be a player that I think the Bulls would certainly lean on here. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's shift focus now, and let's look at the current update around Josh Giddey and his contract. And so right now, the current update is that Josh Giddey has not inked a new deal. So he is still a restricted free agent at this point in time, and there's no new deal on the table. But I will say this, with the moves that have been happening in free agency, there are some things that could impact what happens with Josh Giddey as far as what the finished deal looks like for him. Because the Nets, I think, were a team that was out there that had the cap space to go out and get him, but they just went off and traded for Michael Porter Jr. And so with that trade, I believe they have about 16 million left in cap space. And so that really takes them out of the running to go out and get Josh Giddey. And I think now at this point in time, with the market, it pretty much is in a situation now that the Chicago Bulls, they've offered him his qualifying offer of 11 million, I believe. And so now it's more so maybe the Bulls are and just kind of waiting and seeing if he does get a contract offer and really what that looks like. Because now that they put out the qualifying offer, because he's a restricted free agent, they can match that. And so we'll see what happens with this. I thought that this was something that was going to get done immediately, especially considering how the Chicago Bulls really operate for the most part. Remember, Patrick Williams was in this situation. They went ahead and got the deal done. And generally, when their free agents are available, they try to get them before they get to the market. And so this is interesting to see that this front office has decided to do this. And we'll see what happens. Does anybody offer Josh Giddey a contract that the Bulls are going to have to match? And if not, what is the contract ultimately going to look like? Because make no mistake about it, I do think that the Chicago Bulls want to bring him back. Absolutely. And I do think that Josh Giddey wants to come back, but it's going to be interesting to see what the number is. The reports were out there that he wanted 30 million, which understandably so. This is a guy that played very well, especially down the stretch. And even when you look at just his season numbers, you will see a player that he got better, from that last season in OKC. And so, coming over, new situation, new players, and all the things that he was going through. And so to come here and put it all together, you have to be encouraged there with what he was able to do. And then as far as the playing style and the way that you want to play, Josh Giddey certainly fits that for you. And so you see for yourself, I mean, the 14.6 points, that was up from the 12.3. The rebounds were up to 8.1, up from the 6.4. Steals were up as well, 1.2. That's up from the 0.7. And then more importantly, his 3-point percentage was up. And so as he continues to shoot the ball well from deep, it's going to be tough to really stop him as a guard. So 37.8%, and that was up from 33.7. You see that the assists were up there for him too, 7.2 versus the 4.8 a year ago. And he got to the free throw line a lot more. I think that was what was huge for him and Coby White. And so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And I just think that, you don't want to get into a situation where, you try to not pay him. And I think that is probably going to definitely rub him the wrong way. And how he would respond to that would be interesting. And so we'll see what happens. I mean, I think at the worst case scenario, he would play on his qualifying offer of $11 million. And then from there, he would be an unrestricted free agent, which means that if he has a great season, it means that he would be worth more. And then also too, it would be interesting to see, because then if he has to do that, I wonder if he would even be interested in renegotiating with the Chicago Bulls. But that's big ifs. I don't see that happening. And so we'll wait and see. So lastly, I want to talk about Coby White and Dosunmu. And I wanted to talk about just really what's next for the Chicago Bulls, because assuming that Josh Giddey comes back, I think that now the roster would be full, right? With the Tre Jones re-signing, and then assuming that you're getting Josh Giddey back, then now the only way that the Bulls could really, really shake things up is that it would have to be a Coby White or an Ayo move, or Vooch or something like that. It could be really anybody at this point in time, but these are the two players that, we've recently talked about, with the noise around them, more noise around Ayo than Coby, but still we've seen, a lot of rumors with these two. And so, the question is, would the Chicago Bulls be looking to shake it up some more this offseason? That's something where I kind of think that they're just going to wait and see, but we'll see if they decide to shake it up some more, because, looking at Coby White and his situation, one of the things that I saw that was mentioned was around Jonathan Kuminga, because right now, Jonathan Kuminga, there's been no traction or anything like that. But if the Bulls were to sign him to like a $25 million contract per year, right? And so if you were to do that, then I think that the Golden State Warriors would only be able to take back about $12.5 million there in a sign and trade, which would mean that would be something like a Coby White. And so, would that be something that the Chicago Bulls would want to do? Not sure that they would want to move Coby for Jonathan Kuminga, and I'm not sure that necessarily makes sense, but we'll see what happens with this. I'm in the camp of keeping Coby and then also to Ayo, but I do understand that with these guys being on team-friendly deals, you're going to have to do something. And these guys are headed towards big paydays, especially if they play well, because Coby's at $12.8 million. You have Ayo at $7.5 million. And both of these guys have been solid. I think with Ayo, he's been a terrific two-way player. Once he's been healthy, I think this last season was the season in which he missed the most games due to an injury. But look, been pretty durable, I think, for the most part. 12.3 points, 4.5 assists, 3.5 with his rebounds. Talked about him being, really a one-man fast break. Didn't shoot the three ball as well as he wanted to at 32.8, but still with the things that he can do for your team, and just really the identity we get defensively with Ayo. And with Coby, I've said it numerous times, like with him, finally getting a chance to get a role. I think that he really got locked in towards the end of the season. 20.4 points is what he averaged there, 90.2 from the free throw line. And so that was up 37% from the three-point line, which was identical from a season ago, 45.3% from the field, which was slightly up. And the free throw attempts were up. And so he did a great job as far as not just settling for just 3-point shots and getting to the lane and getting fouled. And so we'll see. And look, you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking. Do you feel like the Chicago Bulls are going to make some more moves this offseason? What do you think here about Josh Giddey? Do you think that he is headed to a big-time payday with the Chicago Bulls, or what do you think a deal is possibly going to look like there? And lastly, how do you feel about Tre Jones and the fact that Tre Jones has been re-signed with the Chicago Bulls? Do you feel like that this was a terrific signing, not just for the short term, but also too for the long term? So I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And as we always say, go Bulls, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.